Good morning. Looking forward to your talk.
Oh, thank you.
Good morning, Marty.
Good morning.
Pardon
You're
my voice.
you're still Bestie instead of Betsy.
Yeah, I haven't been able to correct that. Oh, dear. This will be a great topic.
Well, I
Welcome.
hope so.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure it will be.
Well, you'll have to forgive me if my voice is still a little rough and I have a whole collection of cough drops and drinks here to keep me going. But
Yeah, I think we have plenty of forgiveness.
Um, that's what I'm going with now too. So you've got company. Hmm. Did you all have a good Thanksgiving?
We did. It is quiet, but a very good one.
Mhm.
But you,
Yes, the same. Our Pennsylvania kids were able to come up, so everybody was here at my house, and it was a lot of fun for a few days.
great,
We were together, so
great.
that was nice.
But it does blow me away to know that today is December.
No, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Rice Homestead where I volunteer is having their Christmas event tomorrow. Up there, it's always the first weekend in December, so
Mhm.
we're hoping not to get rained out.
Yeah. Well, they're predicting rain, but here they're not predicting a lot of rain, just
Mm,
a fair, spread
yeah,
around, but not a lot of accumulation. So maybe just enough to be uncomfortable.
right. Mhm.
well, I haven't done Zoom sharing for 2 or 3 years now, so I might be a
Oh,
little bit rusty, but I have my windows all ready to go, so
all right.
hopefully.
Oh,
Do
great.
you want to test it right now?
Sure.
Um, I think you should have a share screen option available.
Okay, let me try that. Um, how's that looking?
Hasn't come up yet.
Hmm.
There it is.
There.
All right. Now we're
That was
seeing screen that says Foster Muriel McCarr Coverlet Gallery.
Sounds like the first slide. We're good.
Looks almost like a black and white image.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there we go. You got it.
All right.
And you want to try advancing just to see?
Oh,
That shouldn't be an issue. Go ahead. That's fine.
try again.
That's good. Got the title screen again.
Okay. Has it advanced?
Yep.
Okay,
nice.
Today's talk.
perfect.
Okay.
All right.
That was an interesting little loom there on the title page.
Yes, I think it's a 20th century loom,
Mm.
most likely. Um, from the revival era, probably from the 20s
Oh, okay.
or the 30s. But
Yeah.
I'm demonstrating fringe on it right now. So I've got
That
two
is
strips set up and then just empty space in between.
right, right. Oh my gosh.
I make
That's
people guess what it is that I'm making.
no.
Hi,
I did.
Cassie.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marty.
I just said hi, Cassie.
Oh, hi,
Hi,
Cassie.
Marty. Hi, Emily.
Hello. Nice to see you.
Looking forward to this.
Oh, good. I'm kind of going to be jumping around and doing a little bit of a lot of things, so I hope it hangs together.
It'll be great.
Click your top bar. There you go. I am here. Do you hear me?
I hear you, Ron. I see you, Ron.
Your
me?
picture.
I hear you, Ron. I see you, Ron.
Hey,
Good.
Ron.
Hi, how you doing? I finally put a draft out of the CCGA newsletter
All right.
for review by a couple people, so maybe I'll get it out before Christmas.
That'll be a nice Christmas gift to receive.
Absolutely. I always look forward to those.
I'm making very slow progress on the reproduction of your red and white Tide Biter Von pattern.
Oh, you got a lot of work to do out there.
I do. I'm actually going to be having some evening hours for the December season, and I plan to just sit there and weave. And if anybody shows up, great. And if not, I will just spend a few evenings weaving.
There you go.
Okay. Is it set up at the entrance there?
Yep.
Good.
Maybe by next year's Coverlet College, I'll have some finished samples to show.
Well, that'll be good.
I finally figured out how to show up. I haven't done it in a while. Has anyone started any new projects?
Always, always new research projects and rabbit holes to go down.
Right.
Actually, earlier this week, Mary Jean and I visited Rose Hill Mansion, which is part of historic Geneva, New York, to look at some of their coverlets. So that was
Do they
pretty.
have a large collection?
They probably have 20 or 30. We saw some of them, and they're not all in the same location.
Yeah,
So
nice.
yeah, they had some interesting things.
Do they have mostly figured or do they have or geometric?
They have figured, they have geometric. They
Yeah.
actually have quite a few woven blankets as
Mhm.
well. Some twill. Pretty neat.
Nice. That's nice. I got thinking maybe later in the spring, I could put together something on the Delhi coverlets.
That'd be great. Let me know.
I will keep you posted.
Be good. That'd be good.
I have a question before we start.
Sure.
Is this Coverlet collection open to the public to view?
Yes. Well, I will talk all about that,
Okay.
but
okay.
yes, it is. We're
Okay,
open to the
thank you.
public.
Thank you.
Well, my clock is apparently slower than my computer's clock, so it's about 3 after. I think we'll go ahead and get started. And so welcome to everybody. My name is Marty Schlabach. I'm the convener of the Coverlet Study Group. We meet every month, monthly at the first Friday at noon via Zoom. And each month we have a couple of new folks join us. So just like to make a special welcome to anybody that's new. And if you're not already on the email list, get in touch with me and I'll be glad to add you. Today, Dr. Emily Barth, who's the curator of the McCarl Coverlet Gallery, is going to provide us with an overview and a history of the Coverlet Gallery, as well as some of the new initiatives that she has undertaken during her short term as curator. The McCarl Coverlet Gallery was founded in 2008 on the campus of St. Vincent College in Latrobe, and she'll fill us in on a whole bunch more details on that. But a little bit about Emily, which she's probably not going to tell us too much about. So she's a native of Western Pennsylvania. She studied linguistics and languages, classical languages, at Georgetown and Cornell, and got her PhD from Cornell in historical linguistics. And it was during graduate school that she began spinning and weaving with the Black Sheep Hand Spinners Guild in Lansing, New York. And that's just outside of Ithaca, where Cornell is. And that's where her interest in historic textile production was born. But after her degree and before St. Vincent and the McCarl Coverlet Gallery, she was the head museum interpreter for Ligonier Valley Historical Society, also in Western Pennsylvania, where she curated a textile-centric exhibit, including the Society's more than 20, mostly geometric coverlets. So she's interested in coverlets both as a weaver and as a lifelong student of history. And what a great combination. I do know that she has some other interests, one of which is she is a birder, also known as a bird watcher. And she says that the question often comes up, what does weaving have to do with linguistics? And her reply is, the common thread lies somewhere in the fact that both language and textiles are universal human activities that trace back to prehistoric roots of civilization and are still alive and well today. So welcome, Emily. I just ask everybody to mute your mics during the presentation, and at the end, feel free to unmute to ask questions and join the conversation. Unless Emily is comfortable with people asking questions during the talk.
I would be fine with that. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask if anything comes up. I'm going to be covering sort of a whole wide variety of things, so jumping from one to the other. And I was just saying, I hope they all hang together when all said and done. So thank you for that introduction, Marty. I'm going to share my screen now, and we'll get started. Okay. Let me know if it's showing up. I might be on a slower computer today, so it
There.
might take a minute.
There, it
Okay.
showed up now. I see
Great.
it now.
Okay. Well, I, as Marty said, am the curator of the Foster and Muriel McCarl Coverlet Gallery, and there is just a shot of the gallery to start with. Waiting for my computer to catch up with me here. Okay. So today in this presentation, I'm just going to give an overview of who we are and what we do, and then a whirlwind tour through what I've been up to since April when I started here, and then spend more time talking about the current and future projects I have in mind. So the picture there on the right of the screen is basically you're seeing most of the gallery. You're seeing about half of it there. And right up front is a modern loom that I'm using to demonstrate on. And this picture was taken at the opening of the current exhibit that's up right now in the gallery. Someone asked if it's open to the public, and it is. Our hours right now are Wednesday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and we are just open to anyone who wants to come and see. So just a very brief background on the McCarl Gallery. It was founded in 2008 through the very generous donation of Foster and Muriel McCarl, who are in the center of the picture on the bottom right, together with their son Brian McCarl and the Archabbot of St. Vincent at the time. So we are located on a college campus of St. Vincent College, which is in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. And the college is also home to an archabbey and the largest Benedictine monastic community in the world. So that gives us some extra flavor here. And within our small gallery space, we have room to display about 24 coverlets at any given time. And we rotate them out and change those exhibits about twice a year. And when the collection started, it was a collection of 380 coverlets donated by Foster and Muriel McCarl, but it has more than doubled since then. So today we have around 875 coverlets and 30 coverlet fragments. I've spent a significant portion of my time here trying to do an inventory, and I have more or less completed the inventory, but then that turned up a few questions when all said and done. So I'm not quite certain about that number, but we're right around 875. And 380 of those were from the McCarls. We got 37 coverlets from the University of Maryland through Clarita Anderson, and 295 from the American Textile History Museum when it closed in 2017. Right now I'm working on accessioning 115 more coverlets from Brian McCarl and a smaller collection of 23 from a Benedictine monk who's donated his family collection. And then the rest have just come from individual donations here and there. As to what is included in the collection, figured and fancy coverlets outnumber geometrics by about 7 to 1. And we have all types and areas represented in the collection, but a majority are Ohio and Pennsylvania, mostly Tide Beiderwand. They're all stored on a combination of rolling racks, which you can see in the picture there, and flat shelving and boxes. When the collection started, it came with funding for adequate storage for that original collection of 380. And so we have enough storage on our rolling racks there for 360 coverlets plus the 24 on display. So that was just enough at the time. So all of the rest that have come in have sort of overflowed into the flat shelving and box storage. And we also have in our collection quite sizable collection now of spinning wheels and looms, which also came from the American Textile History Museum. Here's an in-progress shot of current accessions. As I mentioned, we have 115 coming in from Brian McCarl, and those 23 from Brother Sixtus. We also have 7 or so coverlets from a professor here, a history professor. And some of those are very interesting and odd geometrics. So I'm interested in taking a closer look when I have a chance at those. And then also a number from private donors. So when I came on in April, there was a bit of a backlog of things that I had to take care of that had been sitting there for a while. And the bulk of this was just waiting for me to come in and take care of it. Some of those coverlets I've designated part of a teaching collection, so we'll actually be able to pull them out for students and other groups like that. And I mentioned doing the inventory has turned up several mysteries. So there are a couple coverlets that we should have that I haven't quite laid my hands on yet. And there's also a handful of coverlets with no documentation, and I have no idea where they came from. So I'm still trying to track down what's the story behind those. We also have on site some paper archives and digital archives. So we are home to the Anderson Hawthorne Textile Database, which is actually 2 separate databases. There's one for coverlets and there's one for weavers. And these exist in spreadsheet form, and they are just lists of all of the coverlets and weavers that Clarita Anderson and Kay Hawthorne were able to compile over their research careers. So we have those spreadsheets available. You can download them from our website. And for those who have asked, inscriptions are included. So they're kind of in the last column of the spreadsheet, so they can be easy to miss, but they are in there if you're doing research. But one thing that's not in there currently is the images that go with these entries. And I'm still trying to track those down. They went missing at some point in the last 3 years or so, but supposedly there may be a hard drive out there with all of the images that go with the coverlets in this database. And I'm really hoping that those show up at some point. And I have also begun to add new entries. So there were about 13,000 coverlets in the coverlet database, and I have just started to pick that up and add more that were never included in the first place, mainly from eBay and other online sources so far. And I have some student interns coming in the spring, and I might be able to rope them into working on that and entering some information. So that's the digital database that doesn't exist in physical form. It's just all on the computer. But we also have the paper collections of Clarita Anderson, Kay Hawthorne, and Rita Adrasco. And that's what's pictured here in these gray boxes. And these were just their research collections that they amassed, again, over the span of their research careers, and they found a home here. There are finding aids available online to these research collections, mainly organized by weavers' names and geographic locations. But I have an ultimate goal someday to digitize these and hopefully reformat them so they're a little bit easier to find your way through and find the information you're looking for. So a lot of the folders in these boxes contain just sheets of paper that record individual coverlets. So it would be great if we could put those into a more searchable database format and have that easier to trawl through than having to scan boxes and boxes of paper information. So that's in the works, and that's also here at the gallery. Speaking of digitization, we also have a new website for the gallery. So our former web address was mccarlgallery.org, but update your bookmarks to coverletgallery.org because we lost control of the previous domain name. And now if you go there, it takes you, unfortunately, to an Indonesian gambling website. So please update your bookmarks to coverletgallery.org. And as I have time, I'm trying to put more and more on the website. For now, it's just a basic introduction for visitors, but you can also navigate through the website, through the collections tab, to our online catalog, which is something that I have put up just in July. So that's brand new. We migrated our collection catalog from Past Perfect over to Catalog It, a new program. which is much more user-friendly and also makes it very easy to put everything online. So I moved all of our records over and published them, and you can get there through our website or directly through the address there, hub.catalogit.app/10827. And that takes you to the shot you can see on the right of the screen, which is our Coverlet collection available online. And the links on the left there are all individual folders. They're just subcategories of what's on there. So you can view the Coverlet collection. There's a folder for the current exhibit that's on display right now. There's a separate folder for fragments, which are mostly geometric. And then a separate folder for all of our geometric coverlets, particularly for weavers who might want to look at those and create the drafts for them. And also a separate folder for the textile tools. We have more in our collection than is currently online. So there are still plenty of things that need to be accessioned. More so the textile tools than the coverlets, but not all the coverlets have been put up online yet. The Brian McCarl collection is close to that point, and my work study student and I will hopefully get through the rest of those today after this presentation is over, and those will be published in the near future. So you can look forward to that. And there is a lot of cleanup of the records that still needs to happen. So there are more things to put online, and then within each entry, a lot needs to get edited and standardized. One of those things is the transcriptions. So the corner blocks have their transcriptions. Well, some of them, others don't have transcriptions listed, and it's hard to read them in the images. So that's another thing that my work study and I are working on, is going through and transcribing them all in a standard format and putting those up. But that takes a while. We started at one and we're working our way up. And then also the descriptions need a lot of work. They haven't been touched since when I came on, because I'd like to have a more standardized method of doing them. So I'm holding off on updating the descriptions until I take care of a few other things. But also I have control over those folders up there. So if you have a subcategory of the coverlets that you'd like me to all put in a folder and make that accessible through our online collection, let me know, and I'd be happy to put together a subcategory for you if that makes it easier. Another project I have in the works is photography. So when I came on board, I looked through our catalog, our catalog, which was on Past Perfect at the time, and at least 327 of our coverlets entirely lacked pictures of any kind. And of those that had pictures, many of them were low resolution, and almost none of them had front and back images both. So it became clear pretty quickly that I was going to need to do some pretty extensive photography. And weighing all our options, I decided that investing in an in-house camera setup was going to be the preferable option over having to do weeks and weeks of hired professional photography. And the only downside was that there's more of a learning curve when I'm taking care of it myself. So I had to decide on what exactly I was going to get in terms of equipment, and then I had to figure out how to use it. But I decided on an overhead shooting rig. So if you can see in the picture there, there's a camera on a crane, and the camera points straight down, so we can take the pictures from above. And some of the upsides of that were that there's no sagging in the coverlet, and you can arrange the fringe however you want to. There's no sewing or pinning involved, so it's pretty quick and user-friendly, and also easy to get both sides. All you need to do is flip it over. There's no repinning or re-sewing of a sleeve or anything like that. And one person can handle it all on their own, so I don't need a partner to help me put up the coverlets. I can just do it even if it's just me. So what I ended up with is the setup you can see on the right there, and that is taken back in our storage area. And you can see the flat coverlet storage behind the pull-out screen there. If you're interested in exactly what equipment I ended up with, here's a list. I'm not going to go through it all, but you can see some product pictures on the right, which basically show you what it is. So there's a flash system with soft boxes and that camera crane and a tripod mount so I can put the camera pointing straight down on top. But one extra bonus of the setup I went with is that it's completely portable. So you can see they even all come with their carrying bags right with them. So theoretically, someday, after I'm done taking the hundreds and hundreds of pictures I need to for our own collection, I should be able to put all this in the back of my car and take it on the road. So if anybody has their own coverlet collection that needs to be photographed, I could theoretically come out and help with that. So that's, you know, in the distant future, but a very real possibility that's pretty exciting to me.
Emily, I'm curious how you frame the picture when it's at the end of the boom like that.
Yes, there is a tether cable that connects the camera right to my computer. So I can be looking on my computer screen to see what the image will look like and actually take it right from my computer. I press a button there rather than operating the actual camera.
But you can move the camera around at the end.
Yes, it's a boom. The tripod arm there is meant for video cameras, not still photography. So it's meant to enable you to swing a camera around and take long, steady shots. But it happens to be pretty good for this application also. So that's actually a handle on the one end that you can hold and move it around to frame up your picture.
Thank you.
Emily,
Yes.
this is a hard question. Assuming that that you got this all at the same time, can you give us an idea of what this cost?
Yes, well,
It wasn't cheap.
I came on at the end of the yearly budget, which was very convenient because that meant I had the entire year's budget that really hadn't been spent to spend all at once before it rolled over. So altogether, the camera was the most expensive part. And it's about a $2,500 camera. But the rest of the setup was probably around $1,000 for everything. I could give you more specifics, but I'd have to dig back into my notes and things.
Thanks, kiddo. Thanks.
So switching gears a little bit, I have put on 2 exhibits since I got here. The first one was over the summer, so it ran from May through August. And then the subsequent one started in September, and it is still on display and will be through the end of February of next year. Upcoming after that will be the exhibit for this spring and summer, and that will be highlights from the collection of Brian McCarl, all of these accessions that we're taking in right now. So in the pictures here, you can see on top is the summer exhibit, which was red, white, and blue themed. And then on the bottom is the current exhibit on opening night. And everyone in that picture is doing the scavenger hunt that I put together, which was very successful. It's been a real hit. I just took little snippets from the coverlets and put them in a scavenger hunt so people have to go around and find where that individual motif is. And oftentimes my gallery being so small, we'll have people come in and walk around and go right back out again in under 10 minutes. But I have had small children who do the scavenger hunt staying in there for 45 minutes or more just because they really need to get all of the little things in the scavenger hunt. So that has been great. So a little more detail on these exhibits. The first one was Old Glories. And the mandate really was to just get something up, anything, so that people can come back in the gallery again after it had been closed since the beginning of COVID, really. So the easiest thing to throw together quickly was red, white, and blue, very common color scheme. But then out of that came an unexpectedly fun theme, which was Old Glories. And as I looked into the nickname Old Glory for the American flag, I turned up some surprising coverlet connections. Coverlets kind of follow the same timeline as Old Glory. And Old Glory originally referred to a specific naval flag on one particular ship that its captain named it Old Glory. And it was sewn in 1824, right around the time that the Jacquard machine made it over to America. And the nickname got popularized starting in 1831 and then throughout the 1830s as this particular ship made all the headlines because it transported the descendants of the HMS Bounty mutineers from Tahiti to Pitcairn Island. And that made all the newspapers, and the nickname took off at that point. And the 1830s is also when Jacquard coverlets really became popular. Excuse me, I'm still recovering from a cold here. And both Coverlets and Old Glory also kind of had their sorry. There. Sorry. Got a catch in my throat. Okay. So the Civil War was kind of the the last hurrah for both of these. The Civil War kind of spelled the end of coverlets in a number of ways, but also the Old Glory nickname sort of reached its height during the Civil War when Captain William Driver, who had this ship's flag, retired to Nashville. And that became Confederate territory during the war. So his habit of hanging this giant Union flag out on the street on all the public holidays was not particularly popular there. And the local Confederates came and tried to confiscate his flag a number of times, but they never found it because he and his wife devised a hiding place inside a bed coverlet, is how the sources document it. We know that that had to actually refer to a quilt because they took the layers apart and stuffed the flag inside. So it couldn't have been a woven coverlet. But this also gave me a great opportunity to explain to anyone who came to see this exhibit what the difference is between a quilt and a coverlet. So that worked out really great. So after that exhibit ended, the next exhibit started in September, which is entitled How People Made Coverlets, a 19th Century Factory Tour Inspired by Mr. Rogers. So we are in the Fred M. Rogers Center here on campus. And across the hall and upstairs from us in the same building is a permanent Fred Rogers exhibit. So lots of the people who come to see the Fred Rogers exhibit are the people who end up coming to see the Coverlet Gallery. And most of our foot traffic is actually here in the building for some other reason than specifically to see the coverlets. So I kind of ran with that idea and used Fred as my inspiration for this exhibit to sort of tie it all together. Because one question we always get is, so what do coverlets have to do with Fred Rogers? And the answer isn't anything in particular, but I felt it incumbent upon me to create an answer so I would always be able to answer that question in the future. And so I looked to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood and took his factory tours as the inspiration. So Fred would often go and visit somewhere where people are making things, whether that's rocking horses or graham crackers or crayons, and he would tour the factory. And he always emphasized the people when he was doing this over the product. So he would ask the people there making things if they ever thought about who will be using this rocking chair that you're making, and so on. So in the exhibit we have up now, it's also emphasis on the people. So it's who made these coverlets and who are they making them for, with a little bit of a glimpse into how. I unfortunately don't have a Jacquard machine that I can show working operationally, so I had to be a little bit creative about making this a factory tour. So I'm demonstrating a couple ways to make fringe, for example. You can see the box loom there on the screen is one that I'm using to recreate the same fringe with the same colors and everything as a coverlet that's right next to it in the exhibit. And I have a couple other looms up to show various things as well. So this exhibit kind of works with a tacit mandate I've been given to expand our focus beyond coverlets. So I have this giant collection of beautiful coverlets, but the people on campus want me to bring in other groups of people and bring in other things. So this is the kind of exhibit I'll probably end up doing a lot of, is all about coverlets, but tying it into some external theme that can bring people in. But our upcoming exhibit doesn't really fall into that mold very well. It's going to be highlights from the collection of Brian McCarl. You can see here the screen on the right is my view of Catalog It, our new cataloging program. And this is just an in-progress shot of all the new coverlets that are being added right now. And they will be published in the online catalog very soon with temporary pictures. So I have this photography set up, but as we're adding these coverlets, there isn't really time. It slows it down too much to take good pictures of each one as I go. So we are just taking quick snapshots, mainly of the corner block of every coverlet as we go along. And then after they're all added to the system, we'll go back and add better pictures of all of them one by one. And so if you're looking through our online catalog now, you'll see a lot of variation in terms of the quality of the images you'll see. Some are professional and high quality, others are terrible snapshots that don't show you much of anything. And that's because as I was doing the inventory, any coverlet that didn't have a picture in the system, I just took a quick snapshot just so there would be some sort of visual record that yes, I did find that coverlet and it does physically exist in our space. But the plan is to replace all of those lousy pictures with good ones in the future. Now, putting all of these exhibits up has required a bit of a facelift to the gallery. You can see a money shot there on top, and in that picture you can see some of the new additions and upgrades. There, I put on a literal new coat of paint to our display risers and to that red room in the back. When I came on board. And also we've added those white display risers under the spinning wheel and loom in that picture. And there, we've also done a lot of reorganization in the storage area in the back. I really wish I had taken before photos so I could compare them to what it looks like now, because things have been really rearranged into a much more user-friendly and researcher-friendly format. But also in the works is a new front entry and gift shop area. So the models for our gift shop and new front desk are there on the right, and that should be happening within the year. Because I have this idea that people are intimidated when they see a gallery and they don't necessarily want to come in through the glass doors, but nobody's intimidated by a gift shop. That draws people in. So we're going to have a gift shop right out front, and hopefully that will get people to come in the doors, and once they're through, then maybe they'll head on even further and see our exhibit. So other current projects I have going on. There's the ongoing work of taking care of the collections. So photography and accessions will be going on for the foreseeable future, and making additions and corrections to the catalog, and also the perennial work of refolding, packing, and cleaning all these coverlets. But in addition to that, I also have a few pet projects of my own. One of them is creating a collection of the pattern drafts for all of the geometric coverlets in our collection. And I've started out with the block double weaves because they're some of my favorites visually, but they're also the easiest to draft. So I've actually done all of the block double weaves in our collection so far, and the plan is to continue and do all of the overshots and everything else as well, and add the drafts right into Catalog It. I'm also working on some samples. So I've got a demonstration loom right up in the front of the gallery, and the plan is to weave a sample in all the different weave structures, and show what it looks like to do that, and then have a physical collection of these that people can touch and compare close up. And then also I am working on maybe the most exciting thing here, a visual database of figured and fancy coverlet patterns. So I'm going to give you a little bit more detail on all of these things. So first off, the geometric drafts. The figured and fancy coverlets outnumber geometrics in our collection, 7-1, but with a collection of our size, that still means we have about 140 geometric coverlets and fragments. So as I said, I've already done all of the block double weaves. I've drafted them out. There are 22 of those, and all of the other ones are underway. So here on the right is one of the point twill coverlets that I have drafted. It ended up being a 10 shaft pattern. And the image in the back is what was in our catalog when I came on board. You couldn't even tell what the weave structure was from looking at that picture. So as I did the inventory, I made sure to get a close-up of all the geometric patterns so I could do some thread counting when I went back through. And then on the bottom right is what you would see if you went onto our online collection, and you would be able to see all three of those pictures. And if you're a weaver, you could weave from it. But I also have the weaving information files available on request. So if any weavers are out there who have weaving software that could use those files, you could just contact me and I'd send it your way. And I also plan to weave a crib-sized geometric coverlet, as I was saying, of all of these different weave structures, at least the ones that we can manage on the 20 shaft loom in the gallery. But the other exciting project that I've got going on is a visual pattern index. So when I came on board, I found a problem going through all of these coverlets in the catalog, and that was that there was no standardized way of describing these patterns. The same names and identical descriptions could be used for multiple different patterns, and one individual pattern could go by multiple names, and a lot of the descriptions were just very sparse and therefore unhelpful. Things like floral pattern or medallions used to describe the pattern, and that could apply to dozens of different things. So coming on board, I found it very difficult to make connections between the various coverlets in our collection, especially when they didn't have pictures. So the descriptions did nothing to tell me that this particular coverlet is the same as 5 other ones in our collection. There was just no way to know that. So here on the right is a very common pattern, and the description that was in our system was center field has ferns, flowers, star or sun, roses, leaves, circles with crosses around the flowers / sun. And I have looked hard at that, and I can't make sense out of exactly what they're talking about in a few areas there. So my goal was to come up with something, anything more useful. So here are just a few more examples of the difficulty involved. These are 4 different coverlet patterns that I have all found referred to in various sources as Frenchman's fancy. That doesn't distinguish between all of these different variations. I've also found a very similar sparse description applied to patterns that have nothing to do with each other. So these 4 coverlets are described as floral center field, floral pattern center field, floral center field, and floral block motif in our catalog records. And again, that was just not particularly helpful. You also find it going the other direction. So this one particular pattern, we have at least 7 examples of coverlets with this pattern in our collection, and 7 different descriptions. Everything from floral center field to center field of floral / snowflake medallions, all the way down to center field of star flowers clustered around a pine needle, stars, small stars between. So again, how do you recognize from the description that coverlet 1 here is the same as coverlet 7? It's very difficult to do that without a picture to go by. So the solution that I have come up with is to start making a sort of field guide to patterns. So as I've been working on this, I sort of see all my various personal interests colliding. You've got the bird field guide, taxonomy at work. I also see hints of a Egyptian hieroglyphic dictionary in what I'm working on. It all kind of works together. And the way I'm going about this is in several different tiers. I'm identifying and naming motifs that keep showing up again and again in various patterns, and giving them names. You can see on the right here a selection of the motifs that I've found. And then also I'm trying to identify and put a name to the center field patterns that are repeated in more than one coverlet that I can find. And as I'm doing this, I'm cross-linking everything. So I've got examples of these motifs and patterns in my own collection, but also I'm going and searching through other online collections and print sources to find all of the coverlets I can that have these shared pattern elements and overall patterns. And I have other subsections in the works as well. So most of what I've been looking at are the patterns that have multiple repeats, but I also have the start of another section for center medallion patterns, and also borders and logos are in the works. So I'm just trying to gather these all out, distill them to their basic essence, put a description together, and then link everything everywhere. Well, let me go back. So here, what's shown in the picture is just the motifs, and then if a close-up image is appropriate, I have that as well, and a description. But then the right column lists all of the commonly recurring patterns that I've found that incorporate that motif in them. And those are all links that will take you to a place in the same document that has those particular named patterns. So if you click on one of those links, it will take you to a section in my document, something like this, that has a snapshot of the basic pattern repeat, and then whatever name I've come up with to apply to that pattern. And below those pattern names are links back to all of the different motifs that are incorporated in the pattern. Then in the next column, I have all of the coverlets in the McCarl collection that share that common pattern. The next column is coverlets in other online collections that have the same pattern, and those are all clickable links. And then the next column is print references to coverlets with the same patterns. And this has been a little bit tricky because it's hard to know sometimes whether you're repeating the same coverlet again and again in different works, but I'm working on that. And then the final column is weavers who are known to have woven this pattern. I'm up to 120 some of these common patterns at this point, and it keeps on growing. I added a new one just yesterday. So on my end, this just involves me basically playing a giant game of memory. And I'm just staring at all of these pictures and making those connections, which is great for me because it means that I know our collection and coverlet patterns way better than I ever would have if I weren't trying to do this. I know that Marty has talked at some point about getting some pattern recognition software to do this automatically. I'm kind of the analog pattern recognition software here, doing it all on my own. But I would be happy to have assistance and look at other people's collections to add them to my list. Now, all of that is just a document that I have on my computer, but I'm also entering this into our Catalog It system so that it is usable in the system and online. So I am entering all of these names of motifs and coverlet patterns as tags on Catalog It under the category section. And that means you can enter this particular tag with a description just once, and then if you find any more coverlets that have the same pattern, all you need to do is apply the tag and they're automatically populated with all the same information. And this also means that in the left image here is what I see working on the system in the back end. All of those categories, which are circled in red there, are clickable links. So I can click on that and it pulls up everything in our collection that has that same repeated element or the same pattern. Unfortunately, If you are going to see our collection just as a public internet user and you go to where it is published online, the categories are listed, but they are not clickable links. So that's something that I think Catalog It programmers are working on, and they might make those clickable links at some point in the future. Catalog It is being continually programmed and more features are added all the time. So hopefully that will change, and public users will also be able to click on those links and pull up everything in the category just like I'm able to do on the back end. And I hope that happens because it is extremely convenient and really great for making those connections between the coverlets in our collection. And in the future, I also have it in mind to do a couple other things. There's the full digitization of our archives that I want to take care of. I would also like to crowdsource the Coverlet database. So there is already a project called the Quilt Index, which has had all sorts of people contribute pictures and descriptions of their family quilts all to a big database of all these quilts put together. And I would like to do the same thing for coverlets. And I don't have the physical space to take everyone's donations, but I can certainly document them and add them all to somewhere for posterity where their coverlet can be documented and photographed in full glory. So I have that in mind eventually some point down the road to do that. And I'd also like to start producing exhibit catalogs and video tours and do more in terms of school groups and programming. And some faculty student collaborations are already in the works, so I'm excited about that. And there's always a need for publicity and marketing. So I do tend to get caught up in my own little projects, doing my own coverlet research thing, and I forget to get the word out there sometimes that all of this is happening. So I need to at least put together a new brochure because the old one had our old website on it. So those all had to get thrown away because we don't want to lead people to that Indonesian gambling website when they mean to come to us. So that is pretty much all that I had put together for today. On this final slide here is my contact information. So you can reach me at emily.barth@stvincent.edu, and my phone number is up there as well. And again, we're located on the campus of St. Vincent College in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. And right here, you can see the entrance to the college. That winding road takes you right up to the entrance. And if you bear a left, you will end up at the Fred Rogers Center, which is where we are on the bottom floor. So thank you all for having me here today. And thank you, Marty. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Wow, thank you. You made me tired listening to all the stuff you're doing. It's great. Been hearing bits and pieces about this along the way, and so glad to get a good overview of all of your involvements and engagement with that collection and beyond. So questions or comments from anybody, feel free to unmute and chime in.
I just
Emily,
wanted
that
to
was great.
congratulate you, Emily, on this field guide. I totally agree with you about the medallions and all this kind of stuff. It makes me crazy too. And over the years, I know that I've been inconsistent in spite of my efforts not to be. You know that you evolve over time too, and you come up with better things. But I hope you don't drive yourself around the bend and completely botzo with this, because it's so involved that you were talking about your memory game. I'm it's overwhelming just to hear what you're doing. So I feel for you, but at the same time, I think you're absolutely fantastic for coming up with it. And I salute you from the standpoint of somebody who is in an equally impossible situation. So power on, kiddo. Appreciate
thank
it.
you. I actually find it really fun, which means I'm in a good place. I found my niche here because I enjoy just playing that giant game of memory and staring at giant collections of coverlets online. So it's been a lot of fun, actually.
Thank you very much, Emily. That was wonderful. Such wonderful accomplishments you've made. And I wish you the very best in all of the endeavors that you're going to be pursuing going forward.
Thank you.
There may be some people in the audience and who aren't in attendance today who also might be willing to work with you on the geometric pattern drafts that you're working on.
Yes, that's another thing that I actually kind of do for fun. So I think of figuring out these geometric pattern drafts as kind of my version of Sudoku puzzles. It kind of engages the same parts of the brain. So when I'm looking to relax and do something fun, I figure out another block double weave pattern. But I would be happy to also spread that out because we have quite a number of those also to do.
So if any of you are not, if you haven't activated the chat, there's some comments that have come in via chat. Like Cassie says, Emily, you're amazing, wonderful presentation. Christina says, thank you, Emily, most interesting talk. Leslie says, there's software and hardware. You, Emily, are the liveware.
Well, thank you all.
I guess if you would like some help analyzing some of the patterns, if you could send me some pictures, I could always try to do a few.
That would be great. I may do that with the ones that kind of stump me, because there are a few tricky ones that some more experienced people out there might be able to handle better than I can. And one thing that I haven't mentioned much of is our actual equipment. And I have some looms that I would also really appreciate some help with getting them back up and running. So I would love to talk more with you at some point. I really enjoyed your talk a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago, I suppose.
Well, if I could come and stay a couple months.
Other
Yeah.
comments or questions, go ahead.
Emily, do you ever foresee, I have an interest in smaller museums going around and taking pictures of their coverlets and so forth, just to even document them for that historic site. Would it be possible at some point, maybe to, with the museum's permission, put them into some kind of a database?
That's kind of exactly the sort of thing I'm thinking about with this crowdsourcing idea.
Okay.
It would, of course, be completely up to that particular museum or historical society whether they want to share. But if they do, I would love to put that together.
Right.
And the historical society that I worked at before coming here is about 20 minutes down the road. And I actually did go back and take pictures of all of their coverlets, just quick snapshots again, but I worked up all of their drafts also, just because I was getting pretty enthusiastic about it. And we still have a great relationship, so I'm going to work with them documenting theirs as well. And I also convinced them to get onto catalog it, so they may even publish it online eventually also.
Right, right.
Great.
Yeah, because it's a shame. I mean, there's a lot of smaller places that maybe have 5 or 6 coverlets that never see, the public never sees, or there's an interesting history to them. So often thought that would be a wonderful thing to be able to get out there.
It would, and I would do that if I have the time. But if you're inspired to do that instead of me, I encourage you to do so.
Sure. Yeah.
Do you have a sense of how easy it would be if other small museums had their collections in Catalogit to merge the catalog records into one searchable database?
Basically, everyone who uses Catalogit, who has their collections online, it is all searchable through one search, which is good and bad. So if you just go on to Catalogit without going into a particular collection on Catalogit, there's a search bar and it will search everybody who's on Catalogit. So that can give you results that you don't want, but if you go there and you search coverlet, it will show you coverlets from all the different people who have coverlets. So in a sense, it's already merged that way.
Yeah, except for the, not everybody has the same understanding of what we mean as a coverlet.
Well, that's true. So maybe you'd have to do a couple different searches, but and you'll turn up things that don't apply also, but you'll get everything that's there without having to go individually into every different collection that's there.
So one thing I don't think you mentioned, unless I missed it, was you've compiled a list of collections that have online catalogs.
Yes, and so part of indexing all of these common patterns to all the different collections has been simply to compile a list of those collections, and I'd be happy to share that. So I have a list of links. I think I have about 165 different online sources with coverlets, but don't get too excited about that number because many of them just have one or two. But I have that list, and as I've been going through all of these different collections, I've been counting up how many figured and fancy coverlets and how many geometric coverlets they have, and I list those numbers both in my spreadsheet for every place. So I haven't quite added all of those numbers yet. I have just a handful more places, but once I finish up those numbers on the list, I'd be happy to share that with anybody who wants it.
And probably most of them are using either Past Perfect or Catalog at this point.
That was one way that I found all these places, is I did go through everywhere that has an online Past Perfect and everywhere that has Catalog It. I went through all of those. But there are also places that aren't in either of those systems that just have online collections that I've also found. So it's a big mishmash.
And there's quite a few collections out there, museums out there that use Past Perfect but don't put it online. They just use it as their own.
So I have only been able to do what I've been able to do. So only the ones that are published online and easily accessible are the ones that I've entered so far into my system. But it would be great if I could eventually supplement that with the textile database if our pictures ever show up, and with the Anderson Hawthorne research archives, I dig into those as well. I just haven't had the chance to do that quite yet. But one thing I have also gone in and supplemented with, I don't know if I should say this or not, but I have gone onto the auction sites and gone through all those for their patterns as well. So I figure it can't be too terrible if I'm just linking to a place that's freely available online. I'm not stealing their pictures or anything. It's just links.
Should be fine.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Other
Thank you.
comments or questions? Go ahead.
Yes, just going to say thank you for your presentation. It was amazing. And the information that I think several of us weren't even aware of that you were able to put together.
Well, thank you so much.
Mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Well, I hope to put it all in a format that's shareable in the near future, but a lot of these things are very much in progress, so they're kind of filled with messy notes, but eventually I'd love to pass them around and get feedback.
Great. All right. Well, if there aren't any further comments or questions for Emily, thank you very much, Emily, and congratulations on all you've accomplished in an amazingly short period of time since you became curator there. It's extraordinary. It's terrific. And we're all going to be benefiting from it, which is great.
Thank you again.
Anybody have any announcements that they would like to share about events or activities or anything coming up? I have a couple of things I will mention. And I believe this was mentioned before, but the Putnam County Museum in Greencastle, Indiana has a coverlet exhibit going on now through January 19th. And our own John Simmermaker has loaned 10 of his coverlets for that exhibit. And I believe the well, there may be some coverlets that are part of the museum, but there are, I think, other personal collections, individual collections that these coverlets have come from as well. So if you're out in that area, check out that. And this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, the 2nd and the 3rd, Rabbit Goody is having an open house at Thistle Hill Weavers, her mill. So feel free to stop by between 9:30 and 4:30, be able to see some of the things that they have worked on and some of the things they are currently working on. A couple of things she mentioned is Washington's bed at Valley Forge was something they worked on, and Emily Dickinson's bedroom curtains. So there's some great projects that she's worked on, and you can come and check it all out. Anybody come up with any other announcements or things they wanted to share at this point? All right. Did I hear somebody start to say something? Okay, well, I will send out a follow-up email in a few days that will include a link to the recording. People have found the recording very, very helpful, and the number of views is great. And as always, I will ask again if anybody has any presentation ideas for the future, whether it's you or someone else, please reach out to me. And if you aren't already on the email list to receive these notifications, please email me at mls5@cornell.edu, and I'll see to it that you get on the list. And I'll see you the next time, I hope. That'll be January 5th, the first Friday in January and the new year, via Zoom. And it'll be an interview with John Simmermaker, the collector and friend from Indiana. He's a longtime coverlet collector, and we'll learn a little bit about his collecting past and his present collecting endeavors. So hope you'll join us for that. So once more, thank you, Emily, and thanks to all of you for joining us today, and happy holidays to all. See you next year.
Thank you.
To Marty and to everyone.
Thank you.
Great
Merry
job.
Christmas. Happy New
Thank
Year
you.
to you all.
Great job. Thanks, Emily.